One of my favorite things about being a book lover is looking forward to new releases coming up. As soon as there's a cover, I am totally hooked, even if it's a series I haven't started yet. In fact, it can make me start a new series that I hadn't planned on just for the anticipation of the new cover that's coming out. And I have a long list of exciting books coming out within the next 6 months to a year or so. And almost all of these are from authors that I've read before, but I do have one or two in there, like debut authors that I haven't seen anything from, but they look really exciting. But we'll get to those. First up, Faith of Beasts by James S.A. Corey. This is the second book in the Captives War series. General feedback that I've heard on this one so far is that people didn't like it quite as much as The Expanse. I frickin' loved the first book. I thought it took all of the things that they were too constrained to do within Expanse, and they just had a heyday. So much fun with all of the creature creation, the world building, the war on the epic scale. Like, it was so good. Amidst all of that great world building, my favorite part was still the one-on-one connection that I felt with each one of the characters. It was definitely a character-driven novel, and it's been probably a year and a half since I read that first book, and I can still remember it vividly. The only thing I hate about this release is that it means that Daniel Abraham is going to take longer to finish his Kithamar trilogy. This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me by Ilona Andrews, first book in Maggie the Undying series. I'm about halfway through this one right now and absolutely loving it. As an Ilona Andrews fan, this is definitely the most ambitious project I've seen them take on, but they've got the chops to do it, and it's paying off. It's so good. But for all of you who have heard me talk about Ilona Andrews for years, this would be a really good place to dip your toe into their works and see if you like them, as they're mostly known for urban fantasy stuff, whereas this is just like a straightforward fantasy novel. Pretenders to the Throne of Gods by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is part of the Tyrant's Philosophy series, book 4. Tyrant Philosophers? It's a mouthful. I've read the first book, and it was a lot. There were issues a bit with pacing. I thought some of the things he did in there was a bit weird compared to other books that I've read from him. And I was missing that connection, but I really liked the world building, and I liked some of the unique ideas that I read within it. So unfortunately, it's going to be one that I need to reread before I can then continue the series, but it's exciting to see that it continues on, and I feel like I was a bit confused with the first book, so when I go back to it, I will be able to pick up more because it'll be a second read-through. Hopefully, anyway. But definitely, if you've not read a Tchaikovsky, don't start with that one. It's like fantasy-wise, Guns of Dawn is where it's at. 12 Months by Jim Butcher, book 18 in the Dresden Files. This is coming out in January. I'm a bit surprised on this, I guess because I've been waiting so long for his last 2 books to come out. The idea that we could have a sequel so soon as January, it seems unfathomable. I had to film myself saying that word a few times. Dresden Files is one of my favorite urban fantasy series. I loved Skin Game. Peace Talks and Battlegrounds, it definitely felt like 2 books split up because one of them had really slow, immersed with the character pacing, and the other one was just like a book-long battle with no variation. There were really no highs and lows. I'm not sure I like the direction it's headed. It's kind of jumping the shark a little bit, but I've been in the series so long that I may as well stick it out to the end and see how he resolves everything. He kind of pissed me off in the last book. I did a whole rant on it, but it's been long enough that I'm not really angry anymore. I just remember being angry. One of the new ones, The Geo-Magician by Jennifer Mandula. This is about someone who finds a pterodactyl, like a living pterodactyl or an egg or something. And it's giving me Memoirs of Lady Trent vibes. I really love that era of writing. And I love the books with like kind of a scientific overtone where it feels like you could actually be in the profession of figuring out what to do with a baby pterodactyl. So type of story, cover, and overall vibes, this one's definitely on my to-be-read list. Steel Gods by Richard Swan, second book in the Great Silent series. I had so much fun with his Empire of the Wolf series. In fact, his second book in that one was one of my favorite things that I had read that year. It was so good. I am really excited to read more from him. The only reason I haven't read Grave Empire yet is because I haven't made the time. But having a second book coming out soon will definitely push it up in my priority list. But I really like this guy as an author. He has some cool ideas. And he does some really interesting things with writing that I haven't seen before, like especially in that first series, his play with perspective and like who is the story actually about. I love stuff like that. Blind Side by Michael Mamet, book 5 in the Planetside series. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know how much I love Planetside. One of my all-time favorite slam dunk novels, and I've been having fun with the rest of the series, enjoying spending time with these characters, and I cannot wait to see what happens next because book 4 kind of started a new story arc, and so I'm curious to see how things progress along there. So superb, cannot wait for that one. 1,000 Gates of Garnet and Gold, book 11 in the Wayward Children series. What is this one going to be about? That is my favorite thing about this series. You never know what you're going to get. Is it going to be a heavy world building where we go through a door type of story, or is it going to be one where we're back in the Wayward Children, like the school for misplaced kids? Both are equally strong in my mind, and I would say the further along the series has gotten, I've gotten more books that were absolute hits than I have misses, so she's just only getting better as time goes on. It's probably my favorite thing I've read from she and Anne McGuire at this point. I think I've tried like 3 or 4 different series from her, and this one's definitely my favorite. I'm not even sure if this one has a cover, but it came on my radar. It's called The Library of Amorlin by Kaylin Joseph. First book in the Age of Beasts series. I think it's a debut. It's about a con artist who goes to prison, but then is pulled out and somehow wrapped in some sort of thing where she has to infiltrate a magical library. And this has something to do with hunting down magical beasts as well, but I'm not sure how that ties in. But you have so many key words there that if this thing is not phenomenal, then applauds to the marketing team because they sold me on concept. So I hope it delivers. It seems really awesome. Tailored Realities by Brandon Sanderson. I don't even really know what this one is. I've already pre-ordered a copy because I'll be going to Dragonsteel Nexus in 2025. Do I even care what it's about at this point? Of course I'm going to read it. I would assume it's a compilation of short stories, kind of like Arcanum Unbounded, but I haven't looked that far into it. I am so far behind on Sanderson reads. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I need to get going. But good thing, because Ghost Bloods is going to take 3 years before it comes out because of a scheduling thing that Sanderson is doing. So I actually now have time to catch up. The Lost by Sarah Beth Durst. This one comes out soon, like 1st of November, around there. It's about a town where you can't leave. The cover caught my attention initially. For some reason, I think I read somewhere that this was like a reprint of something she had written. Maybe it is new. I don't know, but since she's had so much success with the Spell Shop stuff, like, she's a hot commodity right now, and I really love her stuff, so I will be picking this one up as well, especially since the cover is so good. Oh, and speaking of her, Sea of Charms, book 3 in the Spell Shop, comes out next year sometime, and I am completely hooked with this series, and it's so much fun. A cozy fantasy to the T with just a touch of romance. The second book had a bit of a stronger romance component, and I'm finding her works perfect palette cleansers between other things. Like, she's great. From KJ Parker, Sisters Vanguard and the Not Quite Dead, and then a few months after that, Sisters Vanguard and the Devil You Know. So he's got 2 books in a trilogy coming out kind of back to back, which I feel like is an odd thing to do. I'm expecting the 3rd book to be like 5 months after that for continuity, but whatever, I guess if he has it available. What that says to me is perhaps he wrote one long novel and then they're like, no, we're gonna split this up. But I really like KJ Parker. 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City was my favorite read of last year, but I am like 25% into The Company right now, and it's like I'm reading a completely different author. Like, where's the humor? Where's the dynamics? Great character immersion, excellent writer, but I'm missing something from this one so far. But honestly, 25% in, and I feel like the story hasn't even really started yet. It's kind of a problem. So, I don't know, we'll see, but I'm very interested. Company was a bit older than 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City, so maybe he's like evolved more to the type of stuff that I am enjoying lately. So Sisters Vanguard will hopefully get read sooner than later. And that's part of the Loyal Opposition series. Green and Deadly Things by Jen Lyons. That's an interesting sounding book. I loved Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. One of my favorite things that I've read lately. But then, I read it for, I think, a Reedburn Horde or something. It got drawn, and I knew better than to dive into a big series like that because I didn't have time to continue right then. So now I'm going to have to reread it. But since then, a really cool standalone book called Sky on Fire came out. I am itching to read that one soon. And now possibly another standalone. So this author is incredibly intelligent. I love how she handled some fantasy tropes, and her works was sufficiently complex and dynamic enough that I just really excited. Hopefully I can get back to her work soon. Secondhand Luck by Kim Harrison, second book in the Age of Shadow series. My patrons and I read the first one well over a year ago, and I love Kim Harrison. I will sing her praises from here to next week on some of the things she's done. She is not very good at starting urban fantasy series. She knows that her characters are awesome and redeemable, especially her main character, but she doesn't always do a good job conveying that in the text. And so her characters come off, I don't know, I have problems with each one of them. Even in Rachel Morgan, which I ended up really loving the Hollows once I got further in. But the Perry Reed Chronicles with the Drafter, that was a hard sell. And if you read the short story that went along with it, it made the character a lot more likable, so it was easier to get behind. With this one, I was just annoyed at the character, and I don't usually get annoyed at characters, so there were a few things in this that I just didn't care for, but I love the author enough, and I do trust her long-term vision, so I am going to be trying the second book and seeing where it goes. Love the covers, though. A new Children of Time book. This is Children of Strife by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Loved the first book, one of my all-time favorite things that I've read. The second one was okay, it was cool. I really liked the squid. Octopi? Cephalopods. The third book was freaking weird. If the whole time you're reading it, you're like, am I following well enough to understand what's going on? Or am I just going to be confused the whole way through? It's a little of both. So that one was not as strong for me. Honestly, I've read enough Tchaikovsky now that I can tell you that is probably the most confusing book that he has, at least as far as I've experienced. So let's hope that Children of Strife kind of brings it back home a little bit, reins it in, and we get a little more of a straightforward story. We shall see. I made myself notes, and I tried to do a really good job making sure that I wrote everything out clearly so that I wasn't sitting here going, yeah, I have no idea. Because the thing I would look it up on is my phone, which I'm using to film. But I have a book called Infinite Stale, and that doesn't sound like an actual title. But it's part of the Decurion saga by Richard Swan, as previously mentioned. And that's coming out next fall sometime. And it's Richard Swan's take on kind of a space opera or a sci-fi. I'm so there for that. I think this author is wildly creative. If that really is what the title is, like the word stale, it'll probably use a little bit of work. But this one will be definitely a purchase I make just based on loyalty to the author and enjoying what he's done so far that I've read. And last but not least, Platform Decay by Martha Wells, book 8 in the Murderbot series. This will also be a novella length. We got one novel-sized book in Network Effect. And then Fugitive Telemetry was out of the timeline. I'm not sure how that one got published, but it did. I enjoyed it, but it felt weird to get this massive book and then just this little, oh, by the way, this doesn't really fit in anywhere very well. And then we got an actual continuation to the story. It felt more like Fallout recovery from Network Effect, so I didn't get a lot out of it. And I just, there wasn't enough substance there for me. So I'm really hoping, it felt like a tangent story, you know what I mean? Where the author just kind of fixates on something that might have one key point that you carry forward, but overall really doesn't matter. It's kind of how that one felt to me. So the next one, I'm hanging my hat on this one. I'm really hoping that this pulls me back into the series because I love this world. I love this character. I watched the show. I don't usually watch a lot of television, but I made time to watch the adaptation because I like Murderbot so much, and I thought they did an excellent job. But as far as the series goes, I need this book to be amazing so that I can continue to recommend it in good faith, because the first 4 books were awesome, but from there, my enthusiasm has waned a little bit. So that's it. Those are all the ones I am so excited for, at least as far as from authors that I currently read who had actual book covers and selected publication dates announced. there's a whole host of things that I'm waiting on that have neither of those things yet. So we'll just keep keeping our fingers crossed there. But let me know, are you looking forward to any of these as well? And what other books did I not include that you're super excited to read? Thanks so much for joining me on this one. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.